I'm going to be presenting a section, Improving Humanity from Twilight of the Idols by Friedrich Nietzsche, and it starts on page 182 and ends on page 186. In the first aphorism, Nietzsche says that all philosophers must place themselves beyond good and evil and must rise above the illusion of moral judgment. He says that there are absolutely no moral facts and that morality is just an interpretation or misinterpretation of certain phenomena. He then relates it to religion, Christianity in particular, by saying that religious moral judgments have a missing element, and that is the concept of reality. The concept of reality is missing. There's no distinction between the real and the imaginary, because we know that God, basically, we don't know if God exists. So far he's an imaginary being because we cannot touch him, we don't know where he is, what he is. And yet, the whole structure of Christianity and religious moral judgments is based on this imaginary thing, God, basically. So there's no distinction between the real and the imaginary. For here, truths are illusions. God also, in religion, is the ultimate truth. It's what everything is based on. And in that case, the truth is an illusion. I mean, we don't know if he exists. It's something human beings created, as far as we know. If moral judgments are taken literally, they seem ridiculous, according to Nietzsche, because the truths they are consisted of are illusions. The truths they consist of are illusions. But then he says that semiotically, so symbolically, they are very useful if you know how to read them, not literally. And reveal how less knowledgeable cultures or cultures that don't understand themselves function. So it's a good way to see how a culture is structured and works. In the second aphorism, Nietzsche says that morality is a result of people constantly trying to improve human beings. So people are constantly trying to create this better version of a human being. And this is done using two methods of improvement. The first being domesticating the human beast, and the second being breeding a certain species of human. When we talk about domesticating, we mean taming, basically the same way you would tame an animal. Nietzsche gives this analogy about animals in the zoo and how they are made ill and weak through the use of pain, injury, hunger, fear, and other methods of torture. As a result, the animal becomes too sick to even, be itself, and it becomes harmless. It becomes depressed. All it does is just sleep and sit in its cage and do nothing, literally. You see them in zoos, they're just there, not being animals. Then he says that human beings, this is also a recurring theme in Nietzsche's writings, basically humans and desires. So this is related to our natural habits, human animalistic tendencies, our desires. As humans, we used to be able to kill very naturally. We used to have a lot of sex. We used to kind of behave like animals until morality and Christianity and religions and whatever came up and started to tame us. He gives the example of priests and says that they do the same to people. They turn us into a caricature of human being by feeding us all of these thoughts, these ideas, these ways of thinking that teach us that our natural ways are basically very wrong and that we should suppress them and they're shameful, and kind of teach us that anything that acting on our desires and not suppressing them and being all over the place, or just, having sex is basically sickening and shameful and should not happen. So because of that, humans are turned into sinners, and They're locked inside horrible ideas. Therefore, we become sick, full of self-loathing and hatred towards life, and we become suspicious of everything happy and strong. So, whenever we see something, that works or that's pretty much, jolly or functional or whatever, we kind of doubt it and feel suspicious about it. So we kind of become like the animal, the weak and sick animal that's in the cage. According to the church, though this isn't such a bad thing, this is the improvement of humans. So now you have the human versus the human beast. In aphorism 3, Nietzsche talks about the second method of improvement, which is breeding. And he says that breeding is basically a human trying to come up or create another kind of human, or for example, the breeding of a particular race or type, to put it in better words. I think this is a more hierarchical and social method. He says that breeding is way gentler than domesticating just because it's not related to Christianity necessarily, not Christian. He says it's still horrendous, but I mean, domesticating he thinks is the worst ever because it's too Christian. So in the case of breeding, we have the human and we have the unbred human, which is basically the wildling, the one who is not civilized, one who runs around and kills and eats crap and whatever. And he also says that breeding invests in making humans sick to weaken them and lessen them in number. He gives an example, which is the law of Manu, the Indian law of Manu, which basically has 4 races or 4 classes. It's a caste system, divine caste system, with that consists of 4 races that exist at once. And basically you have the priestly race, the warrior race, the merchant and agricultural race, and then you have the servant race, the Sudras. But then you also have, I think, sorry. So you have this last race, which is the Mandala, the untouchables, and it's basically these people are worse than slaves in the law of Manu. They're intentionally made sick and weak through sanitary policing. For example, are given sexual diseases and epidemics on purpose. They're not allowed to drink water from wells, nor rivers, nor ponds, nor wash their laundry there, nor bathe themselves there. They're given water from pits or swamps or pits formed by animal footprints. They are not given fire. They cannot help each other. The food they're not given any food. So basically they're just bred. They're trying to outbreed them, I think, in a way, kind of trying to lessen them in number because they're the unbred ones. But at the same time, they were bred by the other people of the higher classes to be this way. So it's kind of like a dichotomy, I think. Opposites exist at the same time. I mean, they're trying to eradicate them, but at the same time, they were bred to be this way. So then in aphorism 4, Nietzsche relates the untouchables to the Jews and to the concept of Christianity, in which, the Jews were the poor ones, they were the mistreated ones, and the concept of Christianity after Jesus came up, with all of the love and treating each other nicely and being weak and humble and, all of these ideas. So basically Christianity preached to the poor, to the miserable, to the failures, to the downtrodden, against those with breeding. So here, the weak one is the good one, and those who breed are the bad one. So the people of the higher classes. And this is why the untouchables are basically the good ones in a way. I mean, the Christians would just pick them up and tell them that they're valuable and worthy, and I think domesticate them and turn them into good Christians. Then in aphorism 5, Nietzsche goes on to say that the morality of breeding is necessary for the morality of domestication. To make morality, you must have the unconditional will to its opposite. He then talks about the holy lie or the pious fraud, which is the gift of all priests and philosophers who have improved humanity. So these people aren't better than the rest of us, but they kind of have this, they convince themselves or think that they're entitled to have this superiority over the others, and they kind of lie to themselves and to everyone else. And through lying, they kind of think they're improving humanity, but they're not. Like, for example, priests, I mean, they're all liars. They spread these false things, and they themselves don't even abide by these things. He says that these people never doubted their right to lie and their different rights, so they think they're different. As a conclusion, he says that all the methods that have been used so far to make humanity moral have been thoroughly immoral. So he even talks about these in our previous readings, like the genealogy of morality. I mean, you have people kind of are taught a lesson by being beaten up or tortured. So make a moral being, or this, to fit all of human beings into this ideal mold of a human being, people have used various immoral methods of torture and suppression and sickness, and like, they're just bad ideas in general. And Nietzsche is totally against this ecce homo kind of thing of the ideal man or the ideal figure, and believes that everyone is different and complex. And yeah, this is it. So according to Nietzsche, morality, our morality, that of systems of morals, are very irrational. They're immoral themselves and not natural, not ideal, and kind of ridiculous.